Everybody, welcome. Give everybody 1 second to filter in. Oops. Yeah, don't be afraid to be active in the chat today. That's what this is all about. Drop where you're from. Let us know where you're in from and who you are if you want. And let's get this thing started. So, welcome. I'm Rob Henley. I'm the CEO, co-founder of Ally Security. This is your first Tabletop Thursday. Welcome, and welcome back to those who have been here before. Just for some background to everybody, we run these exercises about once a month. We're big believers that tabletops are extremely valuable, help organizations improve their incident response capabilities. Exercises are hard, so at Ally, we're bringing tools to help make that easier, better, more fun. And we do exercises like this to try to build a community around it of people who really like them too. So if you like it, tell your friends, come back. This exercise is for learning. We have a great panel who's going to go through this incident together. We have a great facilitator in Jerry who's going to run us through it. I'll turn it over to him in a second. But first, I'm going to turn things over to Stuart, one of our advisors here at Ally and a very experienced incident response practitioner who's going to tell you a little bit about how we built this scenario and what it's for. And this exercise is interactive. Even if you're just in the chat, we do have voting during the exercise, so pay attention, cast your votes. Everybody will be able to join the exercise, and I'm dropping a link here to do that. If there's any issues with the link, let us know. But why don't we turn it over to Stuart and Jerry? Are you sharing your screen right now?
I am, yes. Do I need to give it over to Stuart?
Yeah, why don't we hand it over to Stuart briefly, and he's just going to walk us through. So yeah, over to you, Stuart.
Sweet. So hopefully you can see my screen. So hi everybody. So I run an incident response team currently, and the last 15 years working with ran incident response practices for Mandiant and CrowdStrike, mainly over here in EMEA. And whenever incidents weren't happening, I'd usually be running tabletops with clients to get them prepared. And I was fortunate to meet the team here in Ally, and they built out this module because they had already had a platform for tabletops that could take the what was spoken and translate it into a report, which usually takes a long time in consulting. But now they've built the way to create the scenario in a matter of minutes, and that saves people hours and hours of prep, so they can just focus on the delivery. So we've taken a lot of what happens and what is needed to build an exercise and report effectively for customers and people who are trying to learn from it to make their companies better. And today you're just getting a sneak preview of the actual delivery that Jerry is going to be running. So it's lots of fun. It's very interactive. And what we spend a little bit of time, we're not going to bill anyone for this work, but we spend a bit of time making sure that we had a fictional retailer, D&W, not M&S. This UK retailer has a large consulting company that manages their IT, Toto. And ultimately, this is going to be about you guys learning what happens during this scenario. We've got the 3 injects to bring us through the hour, and each inject will have a set of questions that you guys are going to vote. Now, we all know that voting is easy, but here you're going to have to live with the consequences. So depending on the vote and the decisions we all go for as a majority, there's going to be consequences. So we've got an attack narrative. We've got our participants who you see on our right here who've joined us. And we've got our scenario background, right? So we've got Laura for our head of comms for D&W. We've got Jody We actually, sorry, Jody, I don't know, is Jody here? We may need a substitute. We've got Evan, our CEO. We've got Matt Nguyen, our general counsel, and John Stoner, head of service delivery in Toto. So we've got everyone who's really going to have to answer some difficult questions. And then what we've done is we've built the inject that Jerry's going to run through. I obviously won't go through all of it, but the features that within the platform allow you to simply add in media artifacts that give a little bit more lifelikeness to the exercise rather than just text. But here's the final thing I'll talk about, which was the consequences. So depending on the decisions you guys pick, we have calibrated certain consequences that happen per decision. So what's really important here is we're all going to work together, and depending on what we pick, we then have variables that'll impact us from a brand point of view or a reputation or business disruption. And then as we go on to our next inject, we also then build upon those impacts and variables. So what your job is to do is not only pick the right decision, but make sure those variables are not going up and up and ultimately hurting us. So that's it in a nutshell. There's a lot more features and functionality that are being built out by the guys now. But ultimately, this allows you to quickly set up the environment and then just get to the fun part, which is actually going through it, getting the decisions answered anonymously if needed, which to me is very important because I don't want important people in a room with me where if whatever the most important person in the room says, we all vote. So I wanted bias-free voting. I don't want any confirmation biases where I decide to pick a result just because somebody else picks it. So all of you guys are voting independently, and we're going to take the most voted options to move through. So that's the values we're starting to see from this. And don't forget, if you use this tool in a real life situation, if you had it in a room working with an actual executive team or a technical team, everything that is said would be recorded and the report is automatically generated. So now you have the whole life cycle of the tabletop experience automated. So on that note, I'm going to hand over to Jerry, who's going to help us take this and move things forward. And I'm looking forward to getting my voting done as well. So Jerry, maybe if you want to share some of the links that we can go to and the QR code so we can
Absolutely. You should
get the
see, you
voting up.
should have a link. I'm just going to go ahead and copy, put that right at the top here to access the platform so that you have the ability to do that. Let me just go ahead and share my screen. Thank you,
Jerry,
Stuart. Yeah.
let me jump in real quick.
Oh, sure, sir.
So we are missing our CISO. So we could either play this as CISO on vacation.
I think that fits better. We're making all of these decisions right now.
Or we can play this as or we can take somebody from the audience. So if somebody in the audience wants to raise their hand, happy to bring you up and you can hop on stage with us.
Oh, classic throwback. When we first did this, I was playing the Caesar role when we first did it.
All right. And Lindsay was somebody who
I remember that, Matt.
volunteered earlier in the week, so I'm going to bring her up.
That was the time.
Lindsay, Lindsay, are you with us? Yay, I see you up there. Okay, cool. And then we have an issue with the link because it hasn't started yet. So can you go to the next slide, Jerry, just real quick? Okay. You started this by going to run, correct?
Correct. Yes.
All right. We have technical difficulties. Please stand by. This is what you call the demo effect.
Heck yeah.
All right. Why don't we hit end exercise,
Okay.
end it.
End exercise. Okay. Sorry. There we go. And then let me get back over here. Sorry. There we go. Okay.
All right. I just created a clone of the exercise, Jerry. So if you want to go back and
Hit clone request or clone quest, or what do we want to do here?
nope, if you just go back to your quest page, the left, the little, sorry, the left, yeah, that button right there.
There
third
we go.
page. And then hit refresh.
There we go.
Yeah, hit that exercise copy one.
All right.
And then let's try running this one.
There we go. It's loading. Okay.
All right.
That looks good. Okay.
Why don't we try that link? You can drop that link in the chat. See
Definitely
if-
drop that in the chat here. All right. New link is in there.
Start.
Okay.
Ah,
Oh, here we go. Now we're starting to
All
get it. There we go.
All right, people. Everybody
We
join.
literally we had to turn it off and on again. So let's just get ready. So while everybody's getting situated, I'll go ahead and have we have got a few people that are going to be taking some roles here. If I believe John, if you would mind just introducing yourself and kind of what your role is and where you are and.
Sure. John Stoner here. My real job is over here at Google/Mandiant. I'm here today as the participant running Toto Consulting as the head of security delivery. Happy to be part of the TTX.
Awesome. Evan.
Good afternoon or morning, wherever you are. My name is Evan. I'm the Chief Information Security Officer for Study GRC, and today I'm here playing the lovely CEO.
Awesome. I believe we have Lindsay is going to be our CISO, not Jody, but Lindsay. So.
Hi, I'm Lindsay. I'm the cybersecurity administrator at Mountain View Electric in Colorado. We're an electric cooperative. And I guess I'm going to be the CISO today.
All right. Laura, who is going to be our head of comms? Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Khalil. I am the founder of a company called Once Upon a Role. We build team trust through role-playing games and tabletop games. And yes, I will be the head of communications.
Awesome. And then finally, Matthew is our general counsel.
Yeah, Matt Wynn, cyber student and incoming Falco intern for the Falcon Complete Analyst team. Yeah.
Not a lawyer.
Not a lawyer.
But happy to have you playing one today.
Might as
They make
well.
the best lawyers.
It's
Yeah.
fun. It's funny because I spoke about the IR process like a year ago, talking about the legal stuff too.
Yep. There
Maybe
you go.
law school is calling. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then finally, myself, Gerard Johansen or Gerard Johansen, depending on what I've done. I'm been in incident response for about 15 years. Recently completed 4 years at Red Canary, the MDR firm, and now I'm basically an independent security consultant and working out of South Dakota. So, what we're going to do here today, as Rob and et al. Have described, is just kind of that scenario that we're going to build, really going to drive some discussion is the most important, but let's kind of see what our decision-making process is and how that all works. So let's go ahead and fire this off. So here's our situation in terms of the background. John Stoner, who is the head of service delivery at Toto Consulting, really kind of hanging on, desperately trying to save one of his biggest contracts. Known to say white glove service creates risks. And I don't think that's in the SOW. You guys can read all of this, but really what we have are these different competing individuals in our role here in this situation. Evan, who's the CEO, obviously concerned about our stock price dropping, and basically is going to be throughout the process really has this kind of very surface level understanding of technology, hence the turn it off and on again. Lindsay is our CISO, as she said. Been warning about this exact scenario that we're going into. This is going to be something that obviously, if you've been in this, you've seen these incidents. It's always something. We like to think it's going to be this high speed, low drag nation state, and it's 4 kids in a basement who are able to hit our most vulnerable piece of hardware, software, and the next thing you know, we're chasing our tails. So Lindsay's been talking about the security budget as being too aggressive that she put forward. But Lindsay's going to try to keep from saying "I told you so" every 5 to 10 minutes. So Laura, our head of comms, is really trying to craft a messaging around this. One of the key aspects of responding to an incident is how we look at our customer base and reassure them. So head of comms at DNW is frantically trying to craft a press release that's going to make this catastrophic breach sound like a surprise penetration test or an unrequested penetration test, while fielding calls from reporters who somehow already know everything. All right. Then finally, Matthew is our not a lawyer, calculating the lawsuit exposure, while simultaneously trying to figure out which regulations they violated and whether they can blame everything on an act of God clauses. So a lot of different competing priorities. And if you've never done one of these, this is essentially, whether it's a live incident or just a tabletop, you will see a lot of competing priorities that come out. So all the things that you need to consider here. So here's the scenario. This is going to be our start of the bad stuff. Really nice here. We're doing this at 1 p.m. Eastern time on April 2nd. Toto Consulting, their security team detected an anomalous login activity from a vendor-managed account and traced it to an earlier impersonation attack targeting their help desk. Fairly common scenario. So Toto immediately notified Dave and Windsor CISO, that's Lindsay. Their initial forensics show the attacker accessed the O365 shared mailboxes. They've also got into the AWS console and Salesforce Commerce Cloud. These are all valid credentials. So this is really timely on how these things really happen. So at this point, Toto has not yet reset all vendor-managed passwords, and it is unclear whether the attacker has already moved laterally. All right, move laterally, or we can't figure out establish persistence or access customer data. So the vendor is requesting guidance on next steps and is unsure whether a full password reset across all Dave and Windsor systems would break production integrations or alert the attacker prematurely. So let's kind of break this down. What we have, we've got some impersonation email targeting that the Toto help desk. Valid accounts and credentials are being used from what we would refer to as kind of unexpected travel, right? If you're an M365 admin, that unexpected travel, that geolocation that doesn't fit with our profile. Now we've also got O365, AWS, Salesforce, Commerce Cloud login anomalies, and we're looking at maybe about 90 minutes window of potential unauthorized access. So all of this happens, first flood of activity. Let's kind of pivot into what we're doing next here. So we have at least something in terms of the email, and it looks like we've got that impersonation. All right, just kind of standard phishing that takes up the bulk of what we're seeing from a initial threat actor perspective. All right. Here's our first decision point, then we'll kind of break it out into kind of having a little bit of a discussion around that. So based on what we know right now, all right, you got to make a recommendation here. You're going to make the recommendation one of three scenarios that we can look at here. So should Dave and Windsor instruct Toto to immediately reset all vendor managed passwords across the environment, or conduct a forensic isolation of affected accounts first, or kind of work through a hybrid approach with stage resets by system criticality? So we can kind of split the difference with option C, but we've got kind of that nuke every password, and then or do some forensic isolation on those accounts first. So everybody can start voting, pick A, B, or C, and then we'll see where we end up with this. So go ahead and start voting.
Jerry, you got to hit start voting.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're waiting on me. There we go.
Yeah. And
so there we go.
The other thing I'll mention is voting's anonymous. That's an important thing here. We want people to
good spread.
Be able to vote without worrying about whether their answer is considered right or wrong. And we have confidence voting here as well. And confidence is something that's interesting because you may have alignment on a vote, but the two strongest voices in the room might think it's something different. And so whoever the most confident people are often win out in a room. So like Stuart said, no right or wrong answers. Well, actually everything's a wrong answer here. So good luck.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad somebody picked up what I'm putting down in terms of pulling back, nuking the cipher more, but it's the only way to be sure. All right, we'll give you just a couple more seconds to get voted here, and then we'll kind of discuss. All right. All right, last call for votes. Okay, we're going to go ahead and close it out. So some interesting, we've got some good metrics around here, kind of moderate confidence, kind of the spread. If we look at it, kind of a really good spread there. So from a discussion point, all right. Well, let's kind of look at let's pick on Lindsay, seeing as how this is kind of we're kind of spread around in terms of an approach. Thoughts on a specific approach, and then kind of we'll look at some of the potential pitfalls to those.
So my initial thought is, since I have previously been told that I'm too aggressive, a moderate approach is probably in my best interest if I'd like to keep my job. So I did vote C in line with the character I have been handed here. Now, this is not the decision I would make in my own environment, but playing the game and playing the role, it seems like a moderate approach would probably pacify the other actors in the group, and the other people who are paying attention would allow us to hopefully continue to operate without causing too much distress for the vendors and anyone else who might be logged into the system all at once, and we can kind of spread out the panic a little bit.
Awesome. John, since this is really in Toto's court right now, maybe kind of talk through that process, and then potentially kind of how Toto might approach Dave and Windsor with a recommendation on this.
Sure. I'm not sure that incident response is covered in the current statement of work that we have, although we're happy to continue to work through you until we sort out those details. According to our statement of work and our processes, we would lean forward in trying to just reset everything to make sure that the attacker can't access any of your accounts anymore.
So that's a really good point. Is this in scope? Have we actually thought about this? So I'm gonna pick on Matthew now and say, listen, this kind of started with Toto. Do you think maybe they would have some negligence on their part that might have to kind of get worked out later on?
I mean, there's certainly some negligence involved, as well, but the biggest thing is, especially pertaining to my role, I have to figure out what the scope of that, scope of the incident looks like, and then for me to communicate with both to see which regulations we've been affected by, and how we need to communicate with the lawyers and people up top.
Awesome. Let's kind of hit the CEO, because the CEO may not even be involved in this initial flurry of activity. So, Evan, is this something that maybe the CEO wouldn't even know about just yet, and maybe not able to make some key decisions there? Or is this something that, they're going to get, they're in the chain of that escalation path?
My instinct would be that the CEO would at least be aware that something is happening, but they're probably not involved in the decision making on this just yet.
Okay.
In my experience in real life, we typically run like a war room, which has all the C-level executives. So as soon as comms get kicked off like that, the CEO would at least see something is going on and have that information, but they wouldn't be, getting pulled into a meeting or anything just yet. It would be the other executives and lower level management that would be working through this.
Awesome. All right. With an understanding that we may experience, we're talking about resetting passwords. So I'm sure anybody in the audience ever have to go through password resets and it went smoothly. There could be an impact to customers. There could be an impact to even some of our parties that we address. So Laura, probably not at a stage where you have, let me ask you this, do you have enough information to make a determination on how to craft a comms plan, or are you going to kind of sit back and see what the impact is going to be?
I think at this point, given the communication leaders' probably lack of technical prowess around exactly what has happened, they would likely rely on the CISO and CEO to provide guidance on, well, does this impact our customers? Is this a problem that we need to communicate at this point? Or is this as simple as a password reset? So I would expect that they would actually be waiting for further guidance before preemptively announcing that there was a problem.
Awesome. So a couple of comments that we were seeing. Jason pointed out PCI and card breach notification requirements. Everybody, wherever you are, EU, US, PCI, you're taking PCI data. Those are all factoring in. That starts the clock in terms of our notifications. It's a really good point. John, who's our Toto Consulting, is talking about getting a war room open for better cross collaboration. That's really, especially with third parties, is one of the things to think about when you're doing your own tabletops. Bringing this in is to say, hey, if we do have an MSP, MSSP, MDR provider, who's actually firing that up, that down to the logistical level. So good points there. And PCI is a good standard, but verify it's a real problem first. Yes. That's a standard that you're gonna have to work with your GRC and those teams. So a lot of good discussion here. So Patrick also pointed out anomalous login is rather vague. Yeah, that kind of gets into what we were deciding from the actual decision points is actually, do we just reset everything and carry on? Or do we want to have some sort of forensic analysis to trace where those identities were used, potential points of compromise? Did they access data? What essentially are these credentials? Are we talking human identity, non-human identity, all of that? That anomalous login is rather vague. So yeah, a good point. And maybe that's where the forensics comes in. So awesome. So we're going to go ahead and pivot back into our scenario. And it's kind of like water in dark spots. You get black mold with compromised credentials, you get lateral movement. So here we're going to start looking at what lateral movement looks like. So approximately 90 minutes after the initial breach notification, Dave & Windsor's MSSP detected anomalous API calls and file access patterns originating from the compromised vendor accounts. Just what we were talking about, kind of getting some idea of what those are doing. The logs show the attacker access the Salesforce Commerce Cloud customer database. So this is everything from order history, contact details, encrypted payment tokens. They also started to enumerate AWS S3 buckets and attempted to pivot into the payment processing system via AWS IAM role abuse. So what we have is kind of a combination of different SaaS and public cloud providers being our attack surface. The attacker has not yet deployed ransomware or exfiltrated bulk data, but their reconnaissance suggests intent to do so. Your team must now decide on network containment scope. A minimal containment limits business disruption, but leaves the attacker room to move. A broad containment stops the attacker, but could take down e-commerce, supply chain, internal operations for hours or days into that eradication and recovery period. So let's kind of look at some of the key indicators, what we've got for new information. Unauthorized Salesforce Commerce Cloud API calls from that vendor account. S3 bucket enumeration and access attempts. All right. AWS IAM role assumption attempts targeting payment systems. And we're also seeing customer data repository queries, that order history, contact details. We're starting to get into things that are supposed to be secret or confidential. Attacker sessions still active and moving laterally. So we have a lot of decisions to make. One of the key points is look at kind of all of this all together here. So here we have what we would be seeing from AWS CloudTrail. All right, we're seeing a lot of this very verbose IAM roles being assumed. The list buckets. We see essentially what the S3 bucket that we're looking at. It's that DW-customer-data orders. And we also see some additional blocks as well. One of the things to think about is the threat actors are not often successful all the time. They're very rarely successful 100% of the time. So there are some things that might be indicative of the larger attack in our logging. So, all right, we're going to start looking at our decision. What network containment scope should Dave & Windsor implement? So option, isolate only e-commerce systems. That's 5% disruption, all right? But the attacker does retain supply chain and internal access. So we're really kind of very, very scalpel-like, taking off a very small part of that. Or isolate commerce and supply chain. So that's 55% disruption. Or we go to kind of the AZ5 option, is isolate 95% of the network. This is our maximum containment, but it's going to extend out our outage and recovery time. So I'm going to open up for voting. So let's see what we get here. So think about containment. What are we doing? We need to balance out some things. So let's start voting.
So one recommendation, Jerry, is don't share your screen when people are voting because it'll bias
I'll stop sharing
the answer.
That's a good
people
point.
Start
Thank you.
seeing people see C coming in, they're gonna
jump
Like,
on the
I want to vote
train.
C too.
yeah.
Yeah. That's the confirmation bias seeping in, you know. But yeah, it's
There's no right answer, only peer pressure. I don't know who said that, but yeah.
I mean, the
Okay,
CEO wants everybody to leave everything as is because we can't let the stock prices plummet.
Okay.
Important point.
Does do you guys have cyber insurance? Is that a consideration onto how aggressive we want this to go down right now? Just a question for my lawyer.
Oh, for me? Yeah. Yeah, no, we certainly have cyber insurance. It's just right now, right, with the way that the threat actor has been moving, right, I need to understand what the full scope of that breach is, um, and see how much cyber insurance can really cover. Because at this point, we just don't know how big it is.
All right, we're going to go ahead. We've got some good voting. We're going to go ahead and close voting. Here's kind of some things to think about. All right, CEO brought that up, right? As very, 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 very slim, very targeted in terms of isolation to minimize disruption. Let's kind of turn it to Lindsay, the CISO, and say, with that and that kind of isolated, what's kind of the risk that we may be running into there?
I'm sorry, can you restate which I was following you and then I lost you a little bit for a second there.
Our CEO is really focused on just chugging along, doing a very slim containment strategy. Obviously, that comes with some risk. So, yeah. What's our potential impact there?
Well, I'm going to be polite and say I think probably the CEO doesn't have the same experience that some of the other parties here probably have, and I realize he's wanting to protect the business, but given my own experience and what I'm seeing here, my concern is that this adversary is positioning himself for a much larger attack than what we've seen so far. I do think it's in the business's best interest to go ahead and just shut it all down.
Okay. So now I think we're going to pull Laura into this conversation real quick because we're going to be impacting downstream a lot of our potential customers, our potential service providers. We're going to be out. So is there anything specific you would want to hear from maybe Lindsay or Matthew of kind of how do we craft this message? Because we're really talking about bringing some stuff down maybe for 4 to 8 hours. The other ancillary to that is what kind of mechanism are we going to put a message on our website, an X post, social media? We got a little bit more information for you. Hopefully we gave you enough to start making a movement in that direction. So Laura, kind of talk us through what that looks like.
Absolutely. Well, first, as a communications professional and a lover of fashion, my main concern right now is, will I actually be able to order that Chanel bag I saw on the site? Beyond that, I would be thinking about sitting in the middle, balancing the priorities between what the CEO wants and what the CISO is recommending. And so I think that, perhaps we could find a way in the middle where we don't reveal exactly how bad this is. And maybe we just call it a surprise penetration test. I think I can write up some language about that. That we could share it publicly, but maybe on the website we could just say that we're down for maintenance.
All right. Well, let's kind of pick that apart. There's the truth, and then there's the truth, which what I think is Laura's trying to do here. So, anybody think that it might be advisable not to go the direction of calling it a surprise penetration test?
100%. That is 100% a no-go. Lying to the vendors and lying to the agencies that trust us with their data is going to cost us a lot more money.
Okay.
And in addition, loss of public trust as well. So we don't want to go into that direction. Rather be honest, right, but still maintain the balance of, okay, how are we maintaining our public image and us handling it?
We here at Toto, we often go with a line though that there's been an unexpected maintenance interruption in IT services, which our lawyer has said is factual out of the Cayman Islands. So I mean, you could still sort of like weave the truth in between there, because if we actually do take the services down, that still counts as a fact. Over to you.
Yeah, I feel like being honest and telling people that we are doing our best to protect them in the actions we are taking will go over much better and help to, preserve our image, build trust even further than we already have by being honest, saying, look, we're doing this to protect ourselves, but also to protect you because we value your data.
All right. Yeah, so let's talk real quick. Is we've had a good discussion about, how do we start crafting a message? Are we going to be very honest and say, hey, we're working on this, but we'll let you know? Are we going to call it a unplanned surprise penetration test? Or I believe I saw a really good one here, a remote offsite domain disconnected encrypted at rest data backups attack, aka the ransomware attack. So yeah, anybody from the audience, anybody from the team here? So David, really good. I agree with this one. It's open. Everybody can feel free to disagree. Trust will be destroyed almost immediately once the real news breaks. Absolutely. These things, especially at this stage, in my experience, don't have a real easy mechanism to keep them under wraps, especially if we're talking to data loss. So that public reputation. Let me ask you this, everybody here, is what's worse? We got hit by ransomware along with 1,000 other organizations within the last year, or we got hit by ransomware and we kept it secret for a very, very, very long time until it became absolutely necessary for us to come clean. I think that first, the former is forgivable. The latter is definitely going to have a huge impact on that. So, any last thoughts before we move forward with kind of our third inject in our discussion around there? No? Okay.
Actually, I think there's one thing that the communications lead would be thinking about at this point, which is we've currently been talking about communications from an external perspective. But I imagine, knowing the actual scope, she may actually begin preparing customer service and other departments with some documentation for how they can respond to it. And if she does decide to go with surprise penetration testing, which Laura would not do, but my character definitely is going to do, I think she will have to go through several rounds of updating internal communications that reflect, what they want to convey at that point.
Absolutely. Alan brought up an external PR agency. Often, sometimes can be assistance here. One of the other things that I have in my own, and I'm maybe some others have some experience in this as well, is the legal and that kind of PR communications function are tied at the hip, because whatever we say, we don't want to incur any legal liability down the road. We don't want to have a statement that comes out and says, hey, it was this 0-day or this critical vulnerability that's been sitting in our risk register for 90 days. That is our initial root cause analysis identified. We want to clear that to make sure we're not exposing ourselves, to that type of legal exposure. So yeah, don't wordsmith comms too long. Absolutely. Very simple could be, hey, we're experiencing this issue. We're working on it. We have engaged some partners and we'll keep you posted. Again, it's, I think the worst thing that you can do in these situations is obfuscate the truth and try to kind of get yourself weasel out of it. So, all right, as this is going on, all right, we throw out some containment efforts. Basically, the attacker has already established persistence and deployed the Dragon Force ransomware before isolation was complete. Encryption is now spreading across internal infrastructure, This is hitting our file servers, our databases, and virtual machines. Users are starting to report a ransom note has appeared on the affected systems. We've got some forensics is ongoing, and we have not been able to determine the full scope of encryption or whether backups are intact. The recovery plan calls for 48 hours of forensic analysis before restoration, but operations, I think our CISO, Chief Operations Officer, are demanding immediate data recovery to resume e-commerce and supply chain functions. Your team must decide, proceed with the full forensics before any restoration, safest but longest outage, begin selective restoration of critical systems before forensics is complete. We got a little bit faster, but we risk reinfecting or missing attack key artifacts that we're going to need. Or attempt a hybrid approach with accelerated forensics on specific systems. So we've got Dragon Force ransomware detected on internal servers. File encryption is spreading. Network shares and databases. The ransom note has given us a 72-hour deadline with a 4.2 million demand. Our backup integrity, we don't know if our backups are good or not, and it's going to be about 48 hours before safe restoration. So let's kind of dig into what can we do. So here's kind of what we have from our MSSP security lead. They're seeing it move. Maybe John and et al, can we shut everything down to stop the spread? All right, we've kind of maybe didn't really get full containment. Our isolation is holding, but we do have encrypted files. All right, backups from 48 hours ago appear intact, but we need to verify no malware is dormant on them before we restore. All right, so that full forensics verification, that's 48 hours minimum. All right, our CEO, this is going to be the line that's going to get Evan a little nervous here. Is 150,000 pounds per hour. So we're really getting some downward pressure on restoring our e-commerce database from backup. All right, the CISO, we need a decision in the next 10 minutes. Options 1, we're going to wait for full forensics. 2, restore critical systems now. Or 3, we take a hybrid approach. So CISO is asking for some recommendations. Let's give Lindsay some of our recommendations here. So go ahead. I will start the voting process here. Whoop. So one of those 3, we've got full forensics, parallel restoration, or the accelerated forensics. All right. Okay, give it like 1 or 2 more minutes, and then we're gonna.
Vote, vote, vote.
Get your vote to count. All right, I'll give you about 30 seconds. Give me a little time pressure here because real incidents are not that stressful. We could just kind of walk through and not really. So let's kind of look at that. Awesome. All right, we're gonna go ahead and close voting. Let's look at what we've got here. So we've got some decisions that we're making here. So I think a lot of it is kind of splitting again. Let's see. Let's kind of walk through this. CEO Evan, what kind of information would make this decision easier for you? Is it come down to pure numbers? You know, if we're out for a month versus out for 2 days, is that kind of the rubric that you're following here?
Yes, that as well as the overall cost of each option, what it's going to end up costing the company in dollars
Okay.
and cents. Because even risk just comes down to financial numbers at that level.
Okay.
Honestly, even technically, like legality would too.
Okay. Well, let's pivot to Matthew talking about legality. One of the things that this is going to potentially do is break a lot of our agreements, a lot of our statements of work. Any additional thoughts on this? I know you're trying to smash this in as an act of God, but we're still,
Yeah, so there are some legalities that obviously that there's definitely going to be a couple of agreements broken as well.
Mhm.
The major thing is the scale, right? I think in order for us to even think about legalities, we have to see what the scale of it is first before we can even communicate to these legal entities and how we intend to go about restoring and reestablishing trust as well, and especially financial loss.
Awesome. Good call. Lindsay, you're the CISO, kind of making some key decisions here about forensics. What are kind of some of the things you need your own internal organization and with the kind of capability to do that kind of full forensic analysis factor into it, or is this something you might have to outsource to a third party?
Yeah, I think that's definitely what I would have to think about. And actually, I had a question for John. John, I'd like to know how many times you have seen Dragon Force and how many times has your company eradicated it?
Mm.
How
We've
confident are
seen
you?
we've seen Dragon Force on some of our clients 5 times within the past 1 year.
And
Wow.
what's your success rate?
87% success rate.
87.
Now, in the successful cases that you had, which ones were full shutdowns versus, which ones were you rushing versus which ones did you have all the time that you needed?
We've always argued for a faster shutdown. Most of those other clients had backups that we were able to get them back as well. We believe with moderate confidence that would work in this case as well, to restore from backups based on the information we have at this point in time.
Okay. So given the choices, are you leaning more towards B or C?
I mean, we're here for what you want us to do.
Good
It's
answer.
really your call.
It's a very judicious answer. Good job, John.
I can smell the soap and fresh water on his hands from here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So, taking that into consideration, my own experiences, the fact that I've been called too aggressive in the company in the past, I feel like C is sort of the best option
Mhm.
that allows, minimal downtime with the highest confidence of restoring without just reinfecting ourselves.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. We're going to pick on Laura one more time since now Dragon Force is probably going to drop some sort of notification, maybe on X or, at least on the dark web. Does this kind of change our approach in terms of external and internal comms? Because this is probably going to be something that somebody on the Intel side is going to pick up, whether it's Bleeping Computer or Hacker News, or it's going to end up on somebody's list.
Yeah, I think that the comms lead currently has steam coming out of her ears and is not, she's like, wow, this really, I was hoping it would go differently. Definitely at this point, a couple things. The first would be absolutely engaging a crisis communication firm with the strategy and plan for moving forward. I think this would be outside of the general scope of a head of communications, and we'd want to bring in some experts on this. But what would that include? I think it would include first understanding what information actually has been compromised, what information is safe, and immediately communicating that to our clients very clearly and soberly through all of our communication channels, from website to social media to email blasts. The internal communications, of course, would have to adjust to that, and some of the most common problems we would have with customers I also think that she would be working now with the crisis communications firm on media training for our CEO in how he can effectively respond to what is undoubtedly going to be a number of incoming media requests to
Yeah.
speak on the incident.
Yeah, so awesome, really good. A couple of comments. One of the things that to John is Toto should take all their people off the 4 of their outsource environments and fix. This is going to get into a potential boxing match between Toto and David Windsor in terms of what this is going to look like in terms of getting this restored. And if you're on the MSP side, it might be something you have to do because this could be potentially your biggest customer. So with that, we'll go ahead and wrap it up, and I'll hand it back to Robert, Rob, to close us out. But yeah, some really good discussion there. Thank you.
All right, awesome. That was great, Jerry. Appreciate it. Really good stuff in the chat. I was laughing quite a bit. John from Toto had me going a couple times. I hope everybody else enjoyed the exercise. We'll send out a follow-up email after this to all of you. We'd love to hear your thoughts on what you liked, what could be improved. We also will, if you're interested in trying out the product, building your own scenarios, seeing what it's like, drop me a line. We'll get you access. You can test it out, build something even more ridiculous than what we did today, or build something that's important to your organization or your clients. So I think that's it. Covered everything off in sub 60 minutes. Everybody have a great rest of your Thursday, and we'll see you on the next one. Next TTX Thursday is April 30th. Stay tuned.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
Y'all have a
everybody.
good
This was
one.
great.